Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Storytellers Corner. I'm your host, Joshua T. Calkins Truergy, also known as Baron of Sidious. Is it magic or madness? I am typically loath to quote persons with whose works and doings I am only minimally or marginally familiar. But for the purposes of this brief piece, I will indulge in that practice, as it is, I feel, a beautiful sentiment. Quote, "The whole idea of what happens when you read a book I find absolutely stunning. Here's some product of a tree with little black squiggles on it. You open it, and inside your head comes the voice of someone who may have been dead for over 1,000 years. And yet, there they are, sharing of themselves with you. What a magical thing that is." Carl Sagan. There are storytellers who have within them entire universes to share. Mythologies deep and wondrous, shadowed and hellish, irreverent and whimsical. Many have only one or two stories to tell, while some could craft entire libraries on their own, if time and resources were of no concern. The variety of genres, styles, techniques in construction and marketing are frankly wide enough to fairly boggle a simpleton such as myself. A curiously high volume of the most talented weavers of dread, suspense, gore, and terror seem to be, from my own diving into horror as a broad categorization, genuinely pleasant folks in their everyday lives, if you get to know them. Some few have a reputation as grim and brooding, yes, John Saul and Clive Barker, I'm looking particularly at you gentlemen. But even they prove out in interviews and book signings to be affable and charming. The indies and small press horror folks strike me as even more friendly and approachable, like Terry M. West, Bronwen Winter Phoenix, and Scott Burtness, just to name a few. But each of these folks has also shown at least subtle hints of having been personally touched by some force, presence, or event of a sort that few come away from entirely intact and unscathed. They say birds of a feather flock together, friends and neighbors, and this clutch takes wing on feathers so black that midnight darkness scowls in jealousy. I should know. I count myself among their ranks. There is a certain magic to coming intimately close to pure malice, damage, or overt evil, and surviving it. This is not to say that it's a good or benevolent type of magic, mind you. Rather, it is to say that something outside of normal experience and happenstance is potent, has left a mark, and rendered a cost. Clive Barker touched upon it once when talking about his experiences being a closeted gay man in the 1980s and 90s. To quote him from that interview, "You're watching friends and potential partners drop like flies to this disease, AIDS. And even if you don't believe in God, you're left wondering if he's real and he's punishing you for being so disobediently lustful. It made some of us turn celibate just for safety, and it killed who we thought we were. How awful to know that your own impulses in an area tied to joy and pleasure and love could get you killed so easily." The result can be seen in his The Hellbound Heart, the novella that would become better known as the film Hellraiser, an iconic genre piece. Everyone in horror knows Pinhead and his Cenobites. Peter Straub's adolescent experience with what he believed was a genuinely haunted house just up the street from his childhood home made him a lifelong skeptic and an acolyte of the paranormal and supernatural. To quote him, "I don't know that it was a ghost per se, but I know we don't know for sure what it was." I suspect that part of what makes many folks turn away from the horror genre in books, as opposed to film, television, and video games, is that while the experience for the audience is passive, as in film and television. It isn't just there and then gone. While a video game allows the audience control, agency, and usually a way to escape or fight back against the other or the threat, there are precious few titles that leave a lasting impact on the audience. That impact is not entirely absent, you'll note, but as I indicated, there are very few that leave a definitive mark on you. With an expertly crafted horror short story or book, however, the terror remains with the audience, handily returned to, and it tends to remain fixed in the mind for long stretches of time as you mull the ideas and consequences and connections to your own life over and over. Theater of the mind is a powerful factor here. The storyteller offers details and characters and events, none of which the audience can control, alter, or fend off. Some excellent weavers of weird apply vagaries, allowing the reader to fill in gaps on their own, making the horrors all the more personal in effect. As awful as Winston's head cage rats are in the novel 1984, for obvious reasons, how much more devastating would that scene have been to never know with hard certainty the threat that he faced in that room? Now, obviously, that's not a horror novel that I'm referring to, but it is a horrific scene. Just imagine how much worse it would be for you, the reader, if you weren't given clear information. You'd have to make something up in your own head. And we are typically our own worst enemies when it comes to a fear of the unknown. Of course, you shudder to think about it. Your fears and phobias are yours. Beelzebub has a devil put aside for you, as the Rhapsody says. After all, fear of the unknown strikes at all hearts equally. Is it chaos or madness that drives we horror storytellers to work within this genre? After all, most of us would never wish the fates of our fictional victims on another living soul. Yet we are compelled to explore these notions and concepts. Why? I cannot say with any final universal authority why it is. Whether you believe it to be magic or insanity, well, that's entirely up to you. Thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. I ask that you take care of yourselves, and as always, keep reading.